I'm in Urban Era, and I'm here on my Alta California Model Railroad, which is in my workshop. I wanted to provide a nice update video so you can see what I've been working on, and also show off some of the new equipment that I've had sent to me, and also some other equipment that I've finished kit bashing, so let's get into it. First up, after many years, I finally made a B unit complement to our EMD FT. This is an Intermountain model, this is a Bowser model, so this one has far nicer detail, runs really nice. Eventually I'll put DCC and sound in it so you can enjoy that. The FT also has etched metal grates in the sides versus cast on, and a bunch of other quality of life improvements that I really like. So now I finally have a matched A-B pair of FTs, which is pretty sweet. A couple of things arrived in the mail in the last few weeks. I got an EMC or EMD Model 40, which is a lovely little industrial switcher made by Athearn. Formerly it used to be a Roundhouse tooling, but they've also since improved it from the original Roundhouse offering. That was one of the last models that MDC Roundhouse offered before they were bought by Athearn/Horizon Hobby. So this runs pretty well. I like it a lot. It's very handsomely built, and I love the pre-weathered, pre-faded paint job it has. I would say it desperately needs a capacitor to run smoothly. Which brings me to the next thing that arrived in the mail, the much anticipated Walthers ML8 Plymouth Industrial Switcher. Now, I have a yellow one that I gave to a friend of mine a while back, and I've wanted one ever since because they are extremely good running. They have a capacitor in them so you can go over dirty track. They also have a flywheel, extremely smooth performance, and working headlights just kind of seals the deal. It is the perfect small switcher for light industrial applications, small short lines, anything you might want that would be smaller than like an EMD SW end cap switcher or something. I cannot recommend these highly enough. They're a phenomenal model, especially for the price point, and especially when they come with DCC. It may be difficult to stuff sound in them, but it looks like there's space in the cab for it if you really want to try. And I know there's recordings of the little industrial prime movers that these use. So yeah, highly recommend one of these. Go out and get them now. They're available right now at hobby shops in fall of 2025. I also finished another spectacular kit bash, the second ever Alta steam locomotive seen here. This is a M3 class Mikado, which was built in the mid-1920s by Baldwin for us to similar but different specifications than the Santa Fe 4000 class. This model itself is based off the Broadway Limited 4000 class, but I have extensively redetailed it both up front and made a few mechanical modifications in addition to fully custom painting it, and eventually I will weather it to reflect the end of its life in the 1960s. It's a great runner. I really enjoy it. I look forward to doing another one, which I'll make into a more formal Joy of Kit Bashing video. I have two of them, and this is the first one to make sure I can prove to myself that this is possible as a full kit bash. And now that I have, we'll go through and enjoy that video coming up probably in spring of 26. This one is a very, very interesting prototype model. So a while back I discovered that in the late 60s, Erie Lackawanna sold all of its Fairbanks Morris H1644s south to the Chihuahua Pacifico in Mexico. So I managed to find an exact picture of Erie Lackawanna 1930 in 1967 in Mexico. And so I painted and weathered this perfectly to match the real prototype photos, which you can find on the Center for Railroad Photography and Art's website or Flickr feed. Link in the description. So this was a very fun project. I will also do a Joy of Kit Bashing video about it because the process to get from spare H1644 model to finished version of this is quite a journey, and one that I think will be valuable for a lot of people out there who might want to leverage the parts department of various model manufacturers versus having to do a full repaint from scratch. So I'll go into that in future detail, but it should be pretty exciting. I'm very pleased with how this came out. So this is an Atlas H1644, one of the earlier models, but not the earliest ones, which have the round windows on the cab. This is also Locksound 5 equipped, which will soon get a scaled sound system speaker in it, so it should be phenomenal. The Fairbanks Morse recording this is particularly incredible, including the startup sequence, which vacillates between one in which it catches the first time and the other one in which the battery seems to be a bit low and it clunks and turns over before it finally catches. I'll probably put an inset shot here so you can hear what that sounds like. It's pretty cool. But anyways, this is just a fantastic and easy way to get into a fascinating piece of 1960s and 70s Mexican railroading for basically the price of an Atlas H1644. A lot of people have been asking me what's going on with the layout. So quite a few interesting things happened this fall. I was given a sizable corporate commission to build a modular layout that will be taken to exhibitions around the country for that particular industry's field. So this may be a rare case in which a functional model railroad will be in a corporate industrial environment, which will display how that particular industry does its job, which I'm really excited about. I think it's a phenomenal layout idea, and I think it'll really speak to the people who will come and see the layout and be inspired to either invest or become part of that company. I'll do a full actual build layout series of that, so you can check that out when that comes out. I've already got most of the bench work done as of today, and all the track has arrived and all the buildings. So stay tuned for a cool mini-series on how I build that layout. So the additional funds from that, part of which was going to be invested and saved, the other part is actually going to be in moving this workshop somewhere else. So I need extra space to build this corporate commission, and another space opened up that's not too far away that is exactly the right size for me to allow to build layout commissions inside the workshop for the first time ever, which should be great. And so any future commissions could be built in my workshop and then transported on site to a client's layout, which I'm very excited for that flexibility. That said, I will not demolish the Alta, but I'll go into detail in an upcoming shot in this video, and I'll show you what kind of things I'm going to change when I have to move this layout from this space to the new space. Okay, let's take a quick look over on the more seldom seen part of the layout here. Right here we have the two-track main line, which sweeps on a 43 and 45 radius curve, and it's all super elevated track, of course. And then over here are the two spurs for the brewery, and here's the entire brewery complex right here. You can see that there's an original 19th century brewery here with a full interior, which will be lit, supported by a 1940s era grain silo, which is annexed onto the building. And then behind that is a 20th century curtain wall industrial bottling plant, which you'll see later as well once that's done. There'll be a curved loading platform and probably a car unloader for the grain in boxcar and covered hopper formats, so that should be really neat. But I need to rethink this because in the new version of the Alta, we're going to put a Y in that will go that way, because the staging will go off to a multi-track yard off the layout that way in the new space, which should be pretty nice. The additional 2 feet of space will be added onto this end of the layout, and we will probably bring out the station platforms a couple feet as well. So these curves will move back a little bit, and then I'm going to add in another track, which will be the yard throat for the staging yard, which will run this way, behind what will be where the backdrop is now. The interurban will also get rethought, and we'll move it and reposition it in such a way because we'll have 2 extra feet so that it crosses the double track main line and goes off-world to behind the backdrop to a hidden portion where the streetcars and interurban freight can disappear entirely off the layout and then eventually return back from Guaymas, in this case, and come back over the bridge and down the main street past the station. So that should be really fun. I think it was high time for this to be rethought anyway. Most of my time spent with scenery was over on the other side of the layout, over near Esquina, because I had a much clearer view of what I wanted to do. And this cement plant that I'm practically hugging here needs a little extra breathing room, because as it currently stands, this single switch and a very tight scenario wrapped around the grade up for the interurban is just a little too tight for my liking. I like breathing room with my industries. I like them to be realistically sized, so hopefully this will provide me with that opportunity. The other thing that is behind me, of course, is the engine servicing facility, and 2 extra feet of space for the engine servicing facility will be a very welcome addition. You'll be able to see a lot more interesting things than otherwise would have been able to model in its current format, so stay tuned for that. Don't worry, all of Esquina and this side of the layout will stay as is, but I am going to drastically rethink and improve this space because the new space that the layout we will live in will be 2 feet longer this way. So I'll have more space for more things, including what I hope is a very long staging yard and a sizable Y, so I can finally turn around entire passenger trains, I can turn around freight equipment, and I can turn around locomotives without having to pick them up off the layout. One of the Achilles heels of this layout was that it has no staging, so oftentimes, as you see here, trains kind of live on the layout, and because most of these cars are very delicate, you know, Rapido or Proto 2000 or Tangent, Exactrail kind of cars, I don't really want to handle them that much because their little details will get damaged. And even though I frequently and meticulously use these long A-line boxes, which store pieces of equipment in them, as you can see here, most of my covered hoppers, for instance, these boxes do damage the cars, especially if they have higher details. I've definitely lost brake rigging and stirrups and occasionally coupler pockets just from the nature of the design limitations of these A-line boxes. Now, I'm not going to knock them. I think they're a very space-efficient way to store a lot of cars, but I also think that there's definitely a market for a safer way to keep these cars that is neither as space inefficient as the car case designed ones that are the larger ones that open like this, and not as bare bones as these A-line boxes where it's asking for damage. If you have any recommendations on better car storage than the A-line boxes, please drop it down in the comments. I'd be very curious to test them out and maybe produce a comparison video, because I think this is a problem that a lot of people, especially people who go to clubs to operate, face every day. And it's something I would like to be able to confidently recommend to my clients as well, who have large collections of very delicate models. Work continues on doing the CAD for the depot, which should be pretty cool. I'm still trying to figure out the best method to make sure this transfer table actually operates as advertised, because otherwise it'll be a very expensive prop that will be non-functional, and I don't want that because the locomotive shops need to be operable for this whole layout concept to work, as far as a rewarding and fun layout to operate that isn't just a double-track mainline loop, right? Because we have the interurban swinging around and serving a couple of industries on it. That's great. And the brewery, which is down there, which does significant carloads in addition. But the engine servicing facility and the interurban receive a healthy amount of parts and materials and fuel and oil and lubricant and all of that sort of thing. And I want to make sure that this is still very operable. Also, just for fun. I mean, how fun would it be to have an operable transfer table? So, working on that. There's a few other details I want to do, but all in all, I think I have to prep this thing for a move and slowly depopulate the layout of rolling stock and vehicles and figures and other details that could get lost from when it's moved, because it still has to go out a normal residential-sized door to get to the next layout. So we have to cut and section this in such a way that it won't be damaged, especially because the track work is so finely done. I want to make sure that as much of the original track work stays intact and doesn't flex or bend or get damaged, because I don't want to have to relay it, frankly. I'll be doing other work, you'll see it. I'll definitely produce a video on me dismantling and then moving and then reinstalling the Alta in its new home. And it will certainly be a much more fun layout to operate, and you'll be able to see more scenery than just the corner in Esquina and the mesa and a little bit of this station depot area, as most of the work will be going on at that end of the layout. And you'll see a lot more scenery progress as, you know, I lay in a Y, and as I rethink how I want the industrial sidings on that end of the layout to work so that hopefully we can get new industries in. I've been very excited to want to introduce a large scrapyard into this layout because I have a variety and a lifetime collection of true HO scale wrecked vehicles and other interesting industrial things that would have been retired by the 1960s that we could hide in the scrapyard as Easter eggs, including some of the Fallout prints that you saw earlier in an earlier layout update, because most of the Fallout prints are showing the, post-apocalyptic destroyed versions of like buses, automobiles, other industrial equipment. So those could live as an Easter egg in the scrapyard amongst most of the real world, like retired buses or damaged automobiles. You'll also see another update on the brewery once the layout is moved, because I still want to keep the brewery inside what will eventually be the Y, but I also want to rethink how that industry is put together and how it lives on the layout, because it's still going to be a very interesting industry to switch with a wide variety of freight car types, like covered hoppers, boxcars of grain, and then inbound glass bottles and outbound beer, of course. So that should be really fun. Stay tuned for that. The other things I want to touch on as well is because of the move, I really haven't had any chance to work on the layout scenically, and also because I have over 4 or 5 clients that I'm going on site to do layout construction work with, and now with this added corporate client, most of my model railroading time has been with clients and not for the Alta or any of the custom work. But that said, I have been doing a lot of custom locomotive painting and detailing in the background, which will eventually become future Joy of Kitbashing articles. As previous mentioned, the FT, the 282, we just had a Joy of Kitbashing on the RSC2M, but there's another RSC2 EMD repower that I'm almost done with, which I'll feature in yet another video, which should be really neat. I'll show an inset shot here that'll show off how far I've gotten as of the making of this video. The other cool things that are on the horizon are beyond the move. I want to rethink the lighting scenario in the workshop, or in the new workshop rather, so that it photographs even better. A few months ago, the Philips Hue horizon lights died on me, and I'm not sure why. If you have any idea of either the software or hardware reasons why it would stop working suddenly, I would love to know them, because I've checked all the wiring and I've checked the app, and it just doesn't want to play ball. And considering the Hue system, was in a couple of $100 purchase, I don't want to just throw it away, of course. It seems like a solid system, and there must be some simple reason why it's not, how shall I say this, performing to any standard. I've got a couple of other cool things to show you very soon, especially with the holidays coming. I have a couple of holiday-themed ideas, and a few other franchises that I want to do models for, and I think you'll get a kick out of what I end up doing. Other than that, I think that kick back, relax, and watch some of the train run-bys on the Alta 2 before it becomes the, Alta 2.5, I suppose. Much in the same way of like Dave's Thunder Mesa, I think I want to keep this layout more or less intact, but move it to a new space. So, I really want to thank you, my Patreon patrons, for supporting me, because all the way through this move, it won't be a cheap endeavor, so every single dollar of your support will make this move easier into a newer space where more people can enjoy the layout, more beautifully shot, in better lighting, and far more fun to operate circumstances. This has been An Urban Era. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.